what works and what doesn't work. Yeah.
You have a team of people that you bounce ideas off or anything like that?
Only two.
Oh, okay.
Only two.
Good guy. He's alright guy.
Yeah, he's got some pretty creative ideas.
Yeah.
And like the best thing, I told too about this, I'm like, I hate working with anybody who limits me from what I want to do, or at least listen to my ideas.
Yeah.
But no one's like too. Like I never.
Just gotta give creative space, man.
Yeah.
You know, everybody needs creative space. Anyway, we are live.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
we're
not
live.
live. We are recording. But yeah, we're recording. Peng. We got Peng, as always, your other host. And today we got a buddy of mine, James, who also helps me at my business.
Ooh, James.
I need my applause button to work so we can add it. But anyway, James is here with us this morning, and we're just gonna chat everything, just whatever.
Yeah.
Life, things. We'll have James kind of tell us a little bit about his background, his story. He's got James and Peng, you guys have just met today.
This is our first time meeting each other. Yeah, we have some mutual friends, it sounds like.
Yeah. Shout out Amy Yang.
Yeah, Amy and Elias. Good people.
Yeah, and but yeah, James has some interesting background and story too, so I really wanted to like bring him on so he could share that with everybody who's listening, not just us. Yeah. I know this story, but I just think it's a really inspiring and good story, and so like there's something that I think everybody can learn from, including myself, you know. So
yeah, I definitely heard a lot of great things about you from James, so I'm excited to meet you today.
From too?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Music from James.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry, I know too many James, unfortunately. Yeah. But you do all of his edits for Yellow?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do all of his edits. Two has been really, really encouraging in terms of like just having my own creative space. I mean, I was talking about that a little bit earlier on how coming in, he just kind of said, do your thing. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'll let you know and what needs to change. Actually, the very, very first video, I don't know if you remember this, but it was one of the very first videos that I made because I was trying to make that Paul Anka video that with the whole yellow thing. And there was a quick Instagram edit that I wanted to do, and it was Nabil. I don't know if you remember. He was like talking because he was doing like the PPF, and he was like, yo, we're at Yellow Auto Sports, blah, 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 blah. And then it was all edited like a hip-hop music. And then the beat drops. It was a super hip hop type of edit. And I remember you watching it, and you're like, bro, I can't have that in my shop, in my business. I don't like, we try to stay as professional as possible. Like we don't want to keep we're just not.
Yeah, it's like
drop the video now. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you go on shameless plug, you go on Yellow Auto Sports Instagram. Every video we've released for the last 4 or 5 months now has been James behind the camera, editing it and filming it, and that's been a huge plus. Like in my business, to have someone who's got the creative space in their mind, because I can come up with ideas, but that's as far as my brain will take it.
Yeah.
But some people are just more creative in their mind, you know. And then putting it, like you've been editing our videos too.
Yeah, not doing as good of a job.
Right,
as
but
James.
you know how much work it is to do it, especially when you don't know what you're doing and you're like learning the software, and then maybe we're old, but like I always forget. When I learn how to do one thing, I always forget like a week later, like, oh, how did I do that transition again? Yeah. Like there's just so much to learn, especially once you jump on the computer. So it's nice that James just like kind of, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, so shout out to all the people behind the camera.
Yeah, for real, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it takes me freaking hours just to like edit down 1 minute reel. Yeah. Maybe not hours, but
a long time.
Yeah, it takes me quite a while. You know, I'm like trying to figure out what are we saying, how do I convey this message, what are we doubling up so I can cut it, especially if you're trying to keep it under a minute. So you're just chopping it up so much. Yeah. And it's
one thing about every reel that you'll do for a year. So let's add that time up, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
We're not getting paid for this.
Exactly.
You know, so that's our time.
All of the content creators, starting this whole journey has been really like eye-opening just because like you realize how much work goes into everything. And it's like exhausting, not like physically, but mentally, like and creatively. Yeah. And so...
Yeah, no, and the thing about what you're doing, especially with the editing side of it, is that you have to be mindful of the spoken words and that content, right? Like as for me, when I'm doing those videos with Yellow Autosports, like the content is the car itself. Like the car doesn't speak. Like I just gotta make it look good as possible. Get the color editing, get the right shots and everything, and have it like in a chronological order at least for the viewers to see. Like, hey, damn, like they did the tinting, and that's the finished product, and showing Phil when he's doing the tinting, or showing Tu or Adam, whatever the thing that they're doing. So there's always there's less room for error, let's say, when it comes to editing the cars. It's just making it as pleasing as possible. But when it comes to spoken content, especially what you're gonna do editing after this, you have to be mindful of what to
just like
put
the
in,
audio,
what to put out.
What message you're delivering, right?
Doing,
Like we want to speak as freely as we want to, which is why we started this. But we'd be totally lying if we said like, oh yeah, we can speak 100% freely, right? We speak freely as much as we can with the understanding of the climate that we live in. The social media out there.
And you can hear it in all of our episodes too. Like we're dancing around subjects a lot.
Which kind of
we're kind of stumbling like over our words, just trying to be careful. Especially in some of our earlier episodes, like we have 4 or 5 episodes out, but we have like 10 episodes that will probably never see the light of day, just because like because we don't know each other too well, so we're like learning each other's like communication styles, physical cues. So it's such an interesting thing, and it's been such a learning process.
And keeping a conversation turning, like keep it turning for like it's one thing when you do it just with your friends, that's really easy. But then when you're doing for a podcast, there is a little bit of like you're thinking there is some structure in your mind going on. Like how do we structure it? How do we deliver a message? When do we stop delivering the message? Have I made my point? So there's definitely a learning curve. But anyways, with all that, let's go with James. Yeah, exactly, dude. Tell the listeners.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to ask something specific. It's
okay.
Because the thing is too, like when I do my introductions to my patients, I'll literally just say like, "Hey, my name is James. I'm a doctoral student at St. Mary's University of Minnesota," and I'll go, "Do you have any questions for me?" Like that's it. I'm terrible with introductions. I'm so awful with it, and it's just my nature.
Well, let's start with that. You said you've got patients, and you're in your doctoral program. What are you going to school for? And what are you currently doing?
Right now, so I'm coming into my 3rd year in my doctoral psychology program. It's a counseling psychology program, and it's a 5-year program. So technically, it's a 4 years of schoolwork and then 1 year of internship at the end. So that's what I'm doing. So right now, I'm doing my practicum, not necessarily an internship. It's a practicum at an outpatient University of Minnesota physicians, where I'm doing therapy with a bunch of adults with different disorders, substance use, medical disorders, and all that stuff. So. Doing therapy around that. That's kind of what I'm doing right now.
So you'll be able to diagnose us at the end of the show.
I did that. Yeah. Tell me what the books say about my. Tell me what the books say about us. That's awesome. So you're doing that, and then, so how many you're on year like 5?
No, this is this fall I'll be starting my 3rd year.
Third year.
I have 2.
You have 2 left.
2 years. So 1 year of schoolwork and then 1 year of internship, and at the same time I'll be doing my dissertation. So it's
What's the dissertation entail for your program?
It's so the thing about my program, it's not a PhD program, so we don't have a lot of funding with my program, because my program, it's a Psy.D, so it's more it doesn't receive much funding compared to a PhD psychology program. But so we're not too crazy on research per se. I think more so like the clinical training. A lot of the PhD programs, they focus on a lot of research. I don't know, somebody might tell me otherwise with that, but that's from my understanding. So for my dissertation, at least, we get to pick our own dissertation. For my dissertation, I'll be focusing around like Asian and mental health. I don't know exactly what I'll be looking at, but one of the ideas that I had is the Asians' perception on Asian-based violence post-COVID-19, because we've seen a big increase in Asian violence during and kind of before a little bit during COVID-19, and then the after effects of COVID-19. So
basically, what this podcast is about, right?
Exactly.
Mental health. In the Asian community. Yeah, we might have you on a lot. You might be a returning guest.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I always
that'd be
joke.
Third co-host.
I always joke
Yeah.
with James because James. So James comes into the shop like a couple of days a week
Yeah.
to work, and a lot of times we are working, but a lot of times we just end up talking for like an hour or two about just everything and anything, right? And I'm like, dang, I think I hired a therapist at my own shop who doubles as my video guy. And gives me outlooks on life, but no, exactly. It's he's got good points and good takes.
Yeah,
and
you just got to record those audios secretly.
no, because if I record them, then I'll have a fat bill at the end.
Yeah, I'm already counting all the hours that I have with too. He owes me quite a lot. No, I'm kidding.
But no, that's
It's worth it. It's worth it to have like a video guy and somebody to bounce.
absolutely. I mean, like I was just showing James yesterday, so. With our social media, with my business, I think the number was 80,000 more impressions in the last 90 days than I had compared to the year prior, and that's with just releasing videos more consistently, obviously higher quality. But I think the consistency more than the quality even would be both. They're both important, but like the consistency's been pretty important, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like 80,000 impressions compared to last year's. It was like 18% more than last year, so anything over 100% is a good double up.
Very good.
Yeah, that's a fat payday at the casino.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point that you're pointing out, because sometimes it's about consistency over quality.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting new, quality will come. It will naturally fall. It will naturally fall under whatever the thing that you're doing, but you gotta have that consistency piece. A lot of times, especially what I see with business owners, is that like they sporadically post whenever they want to, but like you got to have that set time. Like, hey, every day, either 12 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever chosen time that you have, just post. Doesn't matter what it is, just post.
Yeah, it's
Just
great
keep
to
posting.
hear because I'm one of those
Yeah,
business
'cause you-
owners where I sporadically
Right, because you
post,
just
know.
started. So you started your business.
It's been a year now, but then I think
Sorry, I'm
we
waving
just
a
la-
razor
we
at you.
we just launched our website just like 3-4 months ago, and then we kind of changed our business model just a couple months ago, and so we've been kind of posting and we're trying to aim our content towards that. And so it's been nice, and we've got a little bit of a buzz, but I can see where it's like I'm lacking that consistency.
Yeah.
A lot of that too is just like, it's winter going into spring. All of my content was shot last year, and so I'm like recycling a lot of videos. So one of my goals this summer is just to make sure I just
Load up,
film
man. Load up.
everything.
Load up. That's
Yeah.
what we're kind of doing. That was our idea too with Yellow. Is like load up, load up maximum of content, and then you can at least go on like a schedule of like, okay, I'll release every other day, but at least I can release every other day for like 6 months ahead, so I'm never behind. And then, I mean, that's a good way of doing it. It's just loading up as much as possible. Or anytime, like I used to write down when I think about like if I was driving, I had an idea in my mind of a video. It's like you got to put the idea down somewhere, like on paper or voice recorder or something. Otherwise, you'll forget like you're supposed to shoot that. So content is key.
Very key.
And one thing too, I realized too with Yellow too is with the videos that we're putting out more often now, it almost becomes like, you know how like we always turn our phones on and like there's always a certain like IG or a certain thing that we watch all the time. Like it becomes ingrained in our day-to-day routine. So like if you can create and become that as a business by putting content that's not just like random content, it's also interesting. It's also not every day is going to be super interesting, but like if you can teach something every time they turn on and they kind of get used to seeing like paying, and then you become part of their lives. Like, Guerrilla Pasture is part of my life today. Eventually, it's like the next time I see you in town, I'm just gonna be like, "Yo, dude, I know you. I know you. I see you every day on my freaking phone." So it's a little bit of that. He's going to school to be a psychologist, so
He
he
understands
the mind
all the
games.
intricates of people's minds and stuff. How to
It's always about consistency. It always is. If I'm teaching my patients, my clients, on how to challenge their negative thoughts, if I'm teaching them how to improve their quality of life, sometimes it's not even about like how well you do it. It's just the fact that you're doing it. Just do it. Just keep doing it, and then quality will come. Eventually, the quality will come. And don't get caught up about if it's good, if it's bad. It's just a fact. Just do it. Do it every day. Do it as much as you can.
Right.
It'll
And
work.
how crazy is that? Like we were just talking last week, we released the episode about fitness and working out.
Yeah.
And that was one of our main
That was their
focus
thing,
was
yeah. Consistency over time as
Yeah.
opposed to just like go ham. And that's like the crash diets, right? Like whenever you
Yeah.
have crash diets, people go on these diets or they go on like these 8-week challenges.
Yep.
And I'm all for it. Like when I see somebody do it on social media, I'm like, great, they're doing something good for themselves. But I always think about like, but what happens at the end of week 8?
Right.
Do you just
Yeah.
are you just done?
They
Did you
just reset.
complete?
You just stop.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you graduate and now you're done, or like?
Yeah.
And like that's always how I thought about it when I was young too. Working out, I was always like, yeah, I'm gonna go on this. I'm gonna like bulk up a little bit this winter, and I'm gonna cut. And eventually, you get older and older, and you're like, okay, now I realized that the working out journey it actually never ends till you die.
Yep.
So you might as well just be healthy for as long as possible. But at the same time, like we were saying last week, you're gonna have some ups, you're gonna have some downs. You know,
Right.
like you're not always gonna be peak 100% all your whole freaking life.
Right. But
There's
it's just
times where
important
you will go be
do
down.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and put something out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the more stuff and shit that I get myself involved into, I'm seeing that too. It's just it is just a consistency thing. It's about just doing it as much as you can for as long as you can. And like you were saying earlier, like quality will come later through
Right.
reps.
It will.
You'll develop.
Oh,
it.
absolutely will.
From your all your readings, since you're doing a crap ton of reading through your studies right now, can you tell us roughly, unless you know the real the hard data of how many times you got to do something like before it actually becomes more of a habit?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know the 90,000 hour rule. I think you know that one
Okay.
too. Do you know that one? The
Yeah.
90,000
I
hours?
think I've read it.
Yeah. Is that an actual rule or is that just a saying?
I think
Like,
it's a
'cause
theory.
Oh,
yeah,
it's a
it's a theory. And this doesn't just apply with mental health. This applies with anything. If you want to do something really well, I think clocking in 90,000 hours.
90,000.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought I heard something that was way less than that.
Was
That
it
made
less?
sense.
Is it 9,000? Maybe it's
10,000?
9,000.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Either
two
way,
can
a
look it up.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either it's a 9.
Yeah.
It's 90, 90
Yeah.
or 9,000. It's a lot. It's absolutely a lot, and I'm pretty sure it might be 90,000. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Could be wrong though
Hey,
too.
he went to school for
Fact check.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No,
Don't do that,
fact check.
man.
Yeah, fact check.
No,
that
I'm
for
just
me
trying to
too.
figure out like how much I got to do something before I'm actually decent at it.
Yeah, no, it's 90.
Well,
Yeah.
I can tell you from my experience that like running my business and like not even the business side, just the skill side.
Yeah.
Like being a good detailer, a good window tinter. It's been like 7 years that I've been open, and I think it took me at least 5-6 years before I was like, yeah, I feel like a master at my craft.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so then I always like envy the people who've been doing it for like 15, 20. I'm like, dude, that's mastering your craft, you know,
Right.
15, 20, 25 years, you know. So if you're out there and you're trying to get good at something, you know, it's what we talked about, the consistency. Like,
For you too, have you ever reached a point in your life where, as you were learning all the concepts and all the topics about how to be a successful business owner, was there ever a point in your life where you're like, damn, I don't know anything? Or did you feel like, oh damn, like I'm starting to know more, Or did you have
on the business side of things?
yeah, on the business side of things, did you have a kind of moment where like damn, like I really don't know?
No, I think like that
anything?
every day, dude. I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty.
And
I
that's
think I'm
good.
pretty. I think I'm
That's
pretty
very
dumb.
good.
Like sometimes I'll listen to a video.
Yeah.
There's videos from 5-6 years ago, or like I have audiobooks on Audible that I listened to 5-6 years ago, and I listen to them all the time. Like you know, I go back to the fundamentals a lot. I listen to the fundamentals a lot, and I always think like, shouldn't I know my fundamentals? Like I've listened to this book like 5 times already, we can maybe bounce off each other and find out if you guys are all the same or if that's how most people are. But
Yeah.
for me, it feels like I always have to go back to my fundamentals, and I forget a lot. Like if I don't practice it every day, I need to go back, listen to it again, and I always pick up something. It's like when they say you read a book, you catch something new. Like the next time you read it, you catch something new. You read it. So I don't read. I don't like to read as much. So I listen, but with Audible, I'll listen to the same books over and over again. So.
Was that true?
What was
for
your
you too?
question?
Was that true for you too,
Yeah.
Peng?
Oh, yeah,
Did it
definitely.
feel like, as you were kind of progressing in life, whether that be, I guess learning life, and there are moments I think where humans where they're like, I kind of figure out how life works, and then
Yeah.
there's a certain point at your age in your lifetime, you're like, damn, I actually don't know how things
Yeah.
work.
Well, yeah, and the world is evolving so fast,
Yeah.
and so there's so much to upkeep with. And like anytime I try to learn a new craft or a new skill, like I would go into it thinking I've done a lot of the research, or
Yeah.
I've looked into it, right? Watched 1,000 hours on YouTube,
Yeah.
But once I actually start doing stuff, it's humbling because you realize there's so much involved into this, or just even just the social media side of it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna post every day to promote my business. We're gonna grow. I'm gonna hit 1 million views in a year, and of course, once I start doing it by the third video, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Editing this, cutting this down, and it's just the grind, and it takes a mental toll on you. And to actually work yourself up to get to that point where you can do it every day is just like working out.
Yeah.
You gotta be doing
You gotta
this.
do it.
Yeah, you
But
gotta train that muscle.
I always think to myself, like when it comes to posting stuff, like I'll see people online sometimes, other business owners that complain about just not having the time to do it, and I get it; it's a ton of work, but like I'm on my phone all the time. I assume most humans are the same nowadays, and I'm on my phone all the time. So it's like, dude, I'm already on my phone. Like, if I have photos of my content, like. But it's weird, right? It still feels like work to go to your IG, think about what you're gonna state about your business, even though you're already on your phone scrolling through like shorts of animals killing each other.
Yeah,
you know.
They would say, what the old people would say, these freaking lazy millennials complaining about scrolling on their phones,
like still
doing
work.
work
It's
on their
crazy.
phone. But it is still work, just because you gotta put yourself in that mentality.
In the mindset,
in the mindset, like, all right, I'm gonna do this, X, Y, and Z. But I do that a lot too, where I'm just scrolling and I just go, oh, I should just.
You could be
editing a
working, right?
video
You could be
now.
working, yeah.
No, because a lot of times people, I think essentially are afraid to learn more because they don't want to challenge what they know now.
Right.
And that was me coming into my program because I already had maybe almost 2 years working in inpatient psych.
Okay.
And then had my undergrad in psychology, and I did my practicum, 350 practicum hours. So I kind of had a sense of damn, I kind of know how things are kind of working. So it kind of prepped me going into this program. And then when I got into the program, I just realized, damn, I don't know anything. I don't know anything whatsoever. I thought I had it kind of somewhat figured out on how, mental illness works and how people are affected by it. But it just goes to show you that, if you're learning something, it should feel like you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you're going into something, you should know that, the prior things that you learn, you should be questioning them at the same time. You have to be open to those experiences. And a lot of times people are not because, they're just afraid to kind of reflect more. They're afraid to kind of challenge some of those prior knowledge that they have, and that's the scary part is that what happens if all the things that you've known growing up were wrong? What happened to all those things that you've hold on to dearly in your life? You find out that they were wrong or that they were false or maybe they weren't aligning to who you are today. So
Right.
it's kind of crazy how that works.
Well, mental health is such a newer topic, right? And so there's probably innovations and new studies going on so much, and what we know to be fact today is going to be different tomorrow.
That's absolutely facts, yeah.
And so you're going to school to be a therapist, right?
Yeah,
So
therapist.
can you tell us the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. That's a common question that a lot of people ask. Therapist, you can get a bachelor's with it, but you're not when you have your bachelor's, it's quite different from a master's. Right. So usually if you want to become a therapist, you want to get your master's degree and you become an LPCC.
Okay.
So
Licensed practitioner.
Yeah, license.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something
Something like that.
Okay.
LPCC. Yeah. And then there are psychologists, and to become a psychologist, you have to get a doctorate degree with that, or doctoral degree. In the past, you could be a licensed psychologist with a master's, but they up that now. You don't see a master's. You don't see a master's licensed psychologist anymore. You have to get your doctoral degree.
Okay.
And that's a licensed psychologist, so that's an LP licensure. And then with psychiatrists, you have to go to medical school. So you go to medical school and then you specialize in whatever you want to do. So one of them is psychiatry. Other ones there are plenty of other medical fields out there, medical doctors out there, and one of them is psychiatrist. So to become a psychiatrist, you have to go to medical school. As for psychologists, you just get into a doctoral program. You do a lot more psychology work versus the medical doctor work for psychiatry. And then if you become a therapist, then essentially you get your master's degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. I never understood that. Okay.
I gotta go pee.
Yeah, go pee. Fast.
We're back. What were we talking about there? What was our last thing?
Where is it?
We were talking about the difference between a psychiatrist.
Oh, yeah,
there we go.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of differences there. I can't prescribe meds, although there are a few psychology programs, master psychology programs where you are able to prescribe meds. If you're prescribing anything, like if you prescribe meds, if you do anything like that, you're gonna make money. So if you prescribe, that means you have credentials. That means you know what you're prescribing. But no, I'm not. We don't do that.
So are you saying you're not gonna make money?
Yeah, probably.
Then you went through all those years of school.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be editing videos for the rest of your life.
That's what I'm saying. What I told to essentially is that he either wins the lottery or he makes it so
Or
big.
Yellow gets huge, and then I just have to hire him on at like
exactly.
200K a year.
That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Hey, that could happen, right?
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, question for you. So you're going to school to be a therapist, and now you're starting your career as a like videographer. What would you call that?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's like social media.
Social media
I was trying to
specialist.
find exactly. I was trying to find the title for that. Somebody called me and was like, "Hey, you're video guy. What's his title?" And I was like, "Huh, that's a good question. I don't know what his title is. Just video guy."
Yeah.
Well, in 5 years, do you see yourself doing like clinical work and as a therapist, or do you see yourself more editing videos?
Yeah.
Or I guess, and what would you rather be doing?
Yeah, well, so essentially, like, what is my career outlook in the next 5 years? Well, that's a really good question. I really don't know. I have plenty of ideas. One of them too, I was talking to too about like starting my own clinic where I hire on therapists and I'm the psychologist and I do like assessments, because that's one thing that we do is a lot of assessments, like IQ tests, personality tests, and I'll be doing that stuff maybe. Or I work for like an organization, like a hospital. One of the things I'm also thinking is that, the student forgiveness program or the loan forgiveness program, you work 5 years in an inner city.
Yeah.
And then you work either 5 years outside like rural areas and get my loans, forgive it.
Yeah, because I imagine it's gonna be pretty expensive to what you're going through. Yeah, I only went. You graduated, right, with a bachelor's.
Undergrad? No, just undergrad.
Oh,
I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, and I didn't
No.
even. Yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of credits that don't line up to anything, but yeah, it's always the thing. Like so much money is
So much money.
Yeah.
Essentially,
so
me
much
going
money.
into my doctoral program is me biting the bullet of saying, I just have more patience to go through the curriculum and willing to bite the bullet that I'm gonna have a shit ton of loans. Essentially. So.
Well, going through the program, do you feel a pressure to do some work in that field?
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, this is where my values are lining up. This is exactly where I want to be in terms of career. Like, I want to focus in the field of psychology, and I don't know what that exactly entails and how I would integrate both my social media passion to kind of put messages out there. So I don't know if if I'm going to be present in the social media in a way where I'm like psychoeducating people on like the prevalence of mental health, using my platform, using like my video editing, my camera work, whatever that is. Like, I still yet to decide what I want to do with that. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of want to try this out podcast thing to see like how I would sound on the thing. So let's see how it goes. So yeah, no, for sure. Like in 5 years, I'll be working in the field of psychology. I just don't know exactly what I'd want to do. And that's something I've yet to explore. I know I still want to keep doing the video thing. I think it's a great outlet for me to kind of decompress and escape from the chaos that I have in my life and school, work, and all that stuff. So yeah, I've yet to kind of decide on what I kind of want to do.
I think that's what we talked about before too. Like with James, I was telling him, like I was encouraging him to like, you gotta have an outlet too, right? You gotta have an outlet, whether it be the gym or art or anything artistic, photo, video. Like for James, it seems like it's like video is pretty much like you like doing that. So
I think that's such an important message, right? Because like I think there's so many people that go to school and then we get trapped into this idea of like developing and growing our career that we just kind of lose sight of everything else.
Yeah, very good point. That's a very good point.
That really, allows us to decompress and just to unwind. And so I think that's so neat that you're kind of going through that.
Yeah,
and you get to talk about that.
Yeah, no, you have to find a balance. You absolutely need to find a balance. And this is one of the things I always kind of yell too at, like, find a balance too. Stop being in the green light or red light. Find a balance. Yeah, it's always finding a balance and what you want to do in life. Like, a lot of times people really, really get caught up with the career, and their career is their identity. Yeah. But like, you also have to reflect, like, who are you outside of that? Who are you outside your identity? Like, can you integrate both your values and your morals with your career? Sometimes people aren't able to do that. Like, they can't be who they are in their careers, and some people they're able to be who they are in their careers, but maybe, you know, they don't make as much, or maybe it's not enough, or maybe it's not satisfying. You know, so there's a lot of things in life that you kind of have to find balance in. And that's essentially that's what we therapists and we psychologists kind of have to do with a lot of people, is that how do you find your balance in your life? Find that balance. It's all about just finding that balance.
But like, you're talking directly to me.
Yeah. No, and I can attest to that too. Like, when I was firefighting, you know, I was full-time firefighter for St. Paul, and when I left this year, like, of course the pay was one thing I didn't want to give up because it was decent pay. The benefits were good. So like, to leave all that was one thing. But honestly, one of the biggest thing that I think is tough for everybody that's a firefighter or whatever job you're at, right? However you hold your identity. Like, to me, I was the first Hmong firefighter. People knew me as the firefighter. So that was a very big part of my identity. And so quitting my job wasn't just about the pay or leaving the benefits. It was also like, am I willing to drop this identity and no longer be a fireman and just be like a civilian again? And that was like a thing that kept me up at night for a long time, thinking like, am I willing to give up this title, you know? And I've given it up, and to be honest, life is great.
Yeah.
How did you like, what did that look like for you? How did you manage to kind of challenge that? Because I'm sure that was a really big value of yours too. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Hmong firefighter.
I think I think it's like, when you're a firefighter, like, okay, if I say firefighter, give me a couple traits that you guys associate with firefighter.
Gung ho, like, love people. You know, they go in
like
danger.
Helpful. Yeah. So so that's kind of how you're perceived, right? And so those are like, those make you feel good, right? You're like, I'm all that. And so, like, to give it up, it's like, man, am I willing to give all that up to go be essentially a car cleaner?
Yeah, a mechanic.
A car cleaner. Am I willing to go be a car cleaner business owner? So it was very tough, but once I made the decision to, like, okay, I'm gonna transition from this job to this job, to be honest, it wasn't that hard. Like, I woke up the next day, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a firefighter anymore. That's it. You know, simple as that. But the process of, like, getting to saying, like, okay, I'm gonna quit, that process was like lengthy, like 2-3 years, every day thinking about it, watching YouTube videos about all that. But the minute it transitioned, it's like next chapter, you know. So I still miss having that title. Like, that title was great, but I just take the experiences from it and just use them in my daily life. Yeah, you don't carry the title anymore, but it's like, it's just a title.
Yeah, because I definitely went through a period of that when I stopped bodybuilding. My idea was that, like, I went to school and now I'm going to start my career, so I'm just going to stop everything else, where I gave that side up. But for 4 years, like, I just slowly watched my body deteriorate. And then I still had people coming up to me and going, hey, you're that bodybuilder guy. Oh, you lost some weight. Yada. But it ate that transition. That transition was really tough for me. And it definitely did, like, it, in a way, it kind of broke me because I was that bodybuilder guy. And that's how everybody in the community knew me as. And every once in a while, I'll still get a kid or somebody that goes, hey, you used to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, don't talk about that. It's sensitive, you know? But like, that transition period, like, it can be tough, but I don't know.
It's weird how we really tie ourselves to, like, a title identity. Or maybe, is it cultural? Do you think, is it cultural, or is it just humans in general? We need to have some identity.
Humans, we have some identity. If we don't have an identity, we'll absolutely be, you know, that's where neuroticism comes in. That's where, depression, anxiety comes in. Because, I mean, all your life, you're trying to find an identity. And if you don't latch onto an identity, then who are you, right? Like, how do you exist in this world?
What is the reason?
Exactly. I mean, that's why you have people aligning with their sports team. You got people aligning with, like, social political views, conservatives, all that stuff.
Seth Godin, his book Tribes, talks about all this. It's a whole book about this. Called Tribes. Good book out there. Tribes, listen to it. It's just talks exactly about that, how humans need to belong to a group of some sort. to have reason to like
Yeah.
keep on going, you know.
Yeah, that's so big. Sorry,
crazy.
sorry to like always bring it back to myself, but yeah, like
No, that's
because
good.
when I left bodybuilding, I was like trying to tie my identity in my career, and then I realized, oh, I suck at this, or like I really don't like this kind of work, and then I went on for years just kind of like faking the funk until like until I was burnt out. I was just like, forget it, I'm just not gonna do this anymore, and then that's when I left and moved to the farm, but. Yeah, like that's so important. Yeah, and that's why like when you started talking, I was like, oh my god, he's talking to me. I feel like I'm getting a free.
But doesn't it feel like too like? Oh, that's how I feel every day.
Oh yeah.
But
I just got to start hanging out here. I'm gonna cancel my appointments with my therapist. I'm gonna start hanging
Just
out.
start
with James.
giving him some cash.
Yeah.
We're just kidding. No, he's not done with school yet. What was it? Oh yeah, but that's something we battle with too, like as human beings when we're growing up. Like, how many identities did we all have
Oh my God.
growing up? Like I remember I was like a thug wearing FUBU to Abercrombie in the same year, dude. In the same year.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go that drastic in the same year? You know, like 1 week I'm wearing freaking silver chain with a grenade and diamonds on it.
Yeah.
And then by the end of I'm wearing seashell necklace by the end of the summertime. You know?
You're just trying to find your tribe.
Yeah. You're like trying to figure it out as you grow up and like, and then you become an adult and it's kind of done, but I try to still find an identity, you know, like it's not done
never
yet.
really
It's never really
Yeah.
ever done. And I think if you sleep on it, then you also just remain the same, which is fine if that's what you're going after. But I don't like that idea for me personally. I want to like constantly grow or change or like find a new hobby or learn something new or, you know, because you only get so much and like, not to be a Debbie Downer, but in your life, you only get so much time to like try these things, man. Before it's over, you know.
Absolute facts.
You know,
That's absolute
unless you come back as another animal or something. But I don't know. I don't want to test that theory.
It's almost like a blessing and a curse because it's great that you're always trying to figure stuff out, but like sometimes, like you know, my wife would go, why aren't you just happy working a job like an office 9 to 5 like and like I really envy those people that can just go to work and just be fine. But like for me, like I have to be doing stuff. I have to be trying to learn stuff, and I have to be, you know. And I don't want to say improve because if I say improve, I'm implying that other people aren't improving. But like I'm always trying to like do more, and sometimes I go, man, like this is great, but this is emotionally and physically and mentally, this is draining. Like this is killing me. You know, and so I almost wish like I can
turn
like
it off.
And that's so crazy. But
no, because there's a lot of parallels in what you're talking about that, which kind of reflects on what Tu and I are always talking about is how to kind of be okay with not being okay. Right, essentially. There's a lot of there's a lot of reasons why people are like that. You know, people want to improve because maybe there's something that they want to do in life that they just want to get better at. But what happens if like, you know, you're not able to get any more better? Like what happens, like how do you accept where you are right now in life and be okay with it? And there has to be something going on in the present. And I told Tu about this. There has to be something going on in the present that's probably causing so much pain where you're constantly trying to live in the future or you're constantly thinking about the past. You know, what is it that's happening right now that all you want to do is keep improving to a point where you're losing reality of your presence and you always think about the future.
Isn't that such a hard question? That's what he asked. That's what he asked me. That's what he asked me the other day. He's like, because I'm always thinking about like projecting my business. Like, where am I going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 8 months? And then he asked me that question, like, what's the question again? Like, why you're always thinking?
What is it about the presence that's causing you so much pain?
So it's making me always think about the future as opposed to me thinking about the present, right? And I thought about it. I'm like, that is true. I always think ahead instead of just thinking of the now. And that's because I'm just always motivated to like, where am I going to go to next? But later on, I might get to 40 and be like, okay, great, I made it. But I forgot to live. You know, I forgot to live while I was doing it. So that's a hard, that question, whoever's listening, that's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah, and it's a hard question because look, essentially what I'm saying is that, you know, this is the things that I talk to my patients and my clients about. I ask the difficult questions and questions that, you know, makes them, you know, essentially can create more mental health issues than improve. See, the thing is, everybody talks about the benefits of therapy. They'll always say about like, go to therapy. It's really, really good. It's gonna be amazing. But sometimes in therapy, it gets worse before it gets better, because it makes you realize all these things, like what is going on in my life. So
These are unlocking like a lot of trauma
exactly. So you have to be mindful about how you ask some of these questions, and who you ask it, when to ask it, and all that stuff. So that's definitely one of them I ask to a lot of people, is that what is it that's happening right now that you can't accept? Is it because like you feel like you're incompetent? Are you comparing yourself to other people? Is it because like you think you're better than who you are? You're always constantly either shaming yourself, or there's a lot of guilt, to a point where you just, like Tu said, you just kind of lose the reality of your presence. You forget to live. You forget to be the here and now moment with your loved ones and your friends.
And I've heard that from like one of my family member, one of my uncle. He's got like a really dope ass crib. He's in California, killer house. Everything you'd want, right? Everything that you would think you would want, right? A big house. He's got goats. He's got everything, right? He's got the setup. He's got like 60 chickens, 50 fighting chickens. Yeah. But he told me the same thing. He's like, dude, I wish when I was your age, I would have just bought a small house and just travel all the time. But a mortgage that costs like $800, right? Something that he bought in the 90s, right? It costs $800 or $600 mortgage, and then you just pay that, and then you just accept it. That's okay. But then you travel the world, or you go on trips, and when you leave the house, you're not leaving a freaking farm behind where there's animals that need to be fed. And so it's like he was telling me, in a way, all these nice things, they're nice as well, but I worked so hard to get them that now I have them, and now I just have extra work, because now I got to maintain my house. I got a big old deck I got to clean. I got a big driveway I got to power wash. Like, you got more things to deal with instead of like being truly free to go do different things. And he told me that, and I was
like on the other side of that, right? If you have somebody who didn't get all those opportunities, that never made it, that
you want to see what it's like.
They're probably feeling that same way. They're like, oh, I wish I would have buckled down a little bit more, or do X, Y, Z.
That's the essence of human's existence. Essentially,
yeah, you always wonder.
Yeah, you always got
the grass greener on the other side.
Yeah. You always have whatever. What you become a celebrity, you have everything. I mean, you would think that money brings happiness, right?
Yeah.
And then
it does.
No, absolutely. It absolutely doesn't. And when you look at the celebrities, then you realize that no, although that they're so rich, they still have their own like quirks, and they have their own issues going on. No matter what you do, whether you have money, you have no money. I mean, essentially, you need to have money to survive. We got to get that out of the way. You essentially need some sort of basic needs to meet. Your housing, you need your nutrition, your financial, all that stuff. Like, you absolutely need. But there's a point in your life where you have to accept that things are just going to be the way they are. Right. Like, that's a hard pill to swallow, and not a lot of people will agree with that. That you'll make it to a certain point in your life, you'll have more money, but then when you have more money, then you'll start to think like, damn, like, should I be getting more money, or should I do other things in life now? Like, people will always have their own issues. And it's just a matter of what happens when you're as long as you're living. And
that's the important thing, too. I always remember, like, I try to always level myself by just remembering that, like, yo, who knows what everybody's issues are, right? We can't read inside people's mind. Like, imagine if we had a billboard on top of our head that said, here are all my daily issues. And then you saw a rich guy, and he had issues, and the poor guy had issues, and a black man had issues, Asian guy. But we don't know that, so we just make assumptions about the public. Like, oh, that guy drives a Ferrari. Man, his life must be killer. Like, we make these assumptions, but we don't even know that maybe that dude, to drive a Ferrari, runs a business that cost him $50 million per year, and this month he just lost like $12 million. And so, and some people are gonna say, well, he still has 50 million. He still makes 50 million a year, but he's still stressed too, right? Versus maybe you are not losing any money. You have a regular job, 9 to 5. You don't love it, but you don't mind it. But you got good group of friends. When you get off work, you just go hang out, you fish with them. Right. Like, who's to say which one is a better life, right?
Absolutely.
I would probably pick the one that with your friends. That's me, but right. But then you say that, but then like you said, like what you said, then you think about
you got 50 million in the bank and you have no one to spend it with.
Exactly.
Like,
because I'm almost to that point where, like, I didn't grow up with much or anything at all, so I'm like trying to build, and so I can pass something on. But I think if you have something, you can always give it away and then go back to the lifestyle. Versus if you don't have it, you can't go the other way. You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm trying to get to this place where I get to where I want to go. And then if I make that decision 50 years down the line where I'm like, oh, I don't need all this, I can just, then I would just move into my,
and that's the thing about like, unfortunately, where we are, capitalist society, getting money is the one thing it does give you is just that, the freedom of choice to say, you know what, I don't want this money. Boom, giving it all back. I'll just keep what I need. You know, the freedom to have that. Versus on the opposite end, what did Kanye West say? I'm sorry. Yeah. He said that like money
President 2024. President Ye.
Like my bad. Like he said, like not have like what did he say? Something about not having money is like not an issue until you don't have any or something like that. And it's true because when you have it, you do have the options to do certain things. Like,
and I know a lot of people who literally, like what you're saying, is that they work their butts off like for 10 years, right? And they, whatever that is, whatever that they're working, and then for the next 20, 30, 40 years, then they just live however they want to live. And there are many ways you could do it. It's just you just gotta find your balance.
What works for you,
and be okay with it. I think that's important too.
Yeah, that is important because I'm not always okay with it. Sometimes I'm like, I want to get there. 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 Like you said, you forget to live in the present because you're like, I want to get there. I want to get there.
Yep, absolutely.
So enjoying the process, I guess, is what we're talking about, which is not always easy to do.
No, not at all. Well, I have kids now, and so it's like a game changer. So then, I say everything I'm doing, I'm trying to build something, to pass down to them. And that's like my justification for maybe being a shitty father, I'm like, I'm working to build you something. Yeah. But, I don't know. Maybe I should just be more present, and maybe I should just not.
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
I can imagine being a dad too. Like if I was a dad, I'd be either working less or working 10 times harder. One or two. But either way, you're like, dude, I've got little humans now that depend on my actions.
Yeah.
Because especially being a first generation immigrant, you're I want to set you up better than I was set up.
Right.
So I'm going to work hard to put you in this position, but not realizing I could also be neglecting some things in that process.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's such a...
No, and essentially going back to the finding balance piece, that's exactly what it is. Humans and people, they'll have different identities. And that's just a natural thing to have. You'll have different, you have an identity as a husband, you have an identity as a father, as a husband, and all that, as a son. People will have different identities. But the one thing that you should have always with you is the same values throughout. You should always have the same values. And whatever that values is, you have to explore what that is. But as long as you have a firm understanding of your values and your morals and your outlook in life, everything will be the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, we need to hire this guy. Hey, when this guy gets licensed, make sure you give him a call.
Wow.
Yeah,
we need to just come in every week. Once a week. That's
absolutely true. Because you could be rich, could be poor, but if your morals and values are true to you, then I think you won't dislike yourself.
Right.
It's hard to dislike yourself.
Because I think that was where my struggles with post college and finding a career, which is I'm making money and I'm doing what I thought was what was successful or deemed successful by society, but I was just like, I'm not happy here. Like this doesn't line up with anything I stand for or that I want to do at all. So I don't know. Sorry.
No.
Anyway, sorry to turn this into a therapy session for myself.
No, absolutely. Because what you're essentially saying is, Payne, that's exactly what people go through. Is that they try to find an identity and then they try to find a specific value in that. Yeah. And then when they find a value in that, then they can't seem to replicate that value in other areas in their life. Yeah. Right? So then, for example, if you were a bodybuilder, right, and you had certain values that made you be that bodybuilder. Like those values, without those values as a bodybuilder, you wouldn't have been a bodybuilder. Right. But then if you try to apply that value in other areas in your life, like let's say, I don't know, being a father, being a wife, like it may work in certain areas, but maybe it absolutely doesn't work. So you kind of have to flex, what did you learn in being a bodybuilder and how can you apply only those certain things of lessons to kind of mold it into a bigger value, a bigger moral and what you want to do. Because that's what people really, really struggle with is that, this is a big value as a business owner, and then they try to apply it in their relationships, and it only works a little bit, but it doesn't work entirely. So you kind of have to assess, like, what is that value that I'm learning in this identity in this lesson? So to kind of integrate it to who you want to be. You know?
I think I'm gonna start crying here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, cry, bro.
What are you doing to? What are you doing? Why'd you bring this guy here?
It was
man?
it was a secret therapy sesh that I planned all along. That's why I was guiding all the questions towards this. No, but hey, good topics and stuff. But there's one thing I wanted to address too, or talk about is because James, I wanted you to share, kind of what you're upgrowing because you were born in the Philippines, right? Born and raised in the Philippines, right?
Yeah, born and bred, raised in the
Born and bred.
Philippines. Yeah, born in I was born in the capital, Manila. Never knew my father growing up, so only had photos of him. No idea who he is. And then, so it was my sister. She's 5 years older than me. And then when I was born in Manila, my mom and my dad, they separated. So then my mom decided to go back to where she was from, Cebu, to live with my grandparents. So
Sorry.
Yeah.
Petro. Is your father Filipino too?
Yeah, he's
Oh,
Filipino,
okay.
yeah.
Because I know that there was like a influx of what do they call those, like impacts? Or,
yeah, expats.
Expats. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, you still see them there today.
Okay.
They still exist. Yeah.
Where are they at the bar?
Oh my gosh, yes, the bar, the slummy years. They gotta get the, get the broken girl, the poor girl. It's just tough. It's just how it works sometimes. But so when I moved to Cebu to live with my grandparents, my mom was going to. I think she just finished her nursing school and everything like that, and then she had a best friend, that had an American husband. She had an American husband, and then they pretty much introduced my mom to my stepdad today. And they were like, "Hey, I have this friend. She's single and blah 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 blah." And then I was like, "I don't know. Like I don't know how that works and everything." So essentially, they started talking. My mom and my stepdad today. My stepdad wrote her letters like every day, every month. Called her every day, and what happened was that my mom was like, "Hey, just so you know, I have kids, and if you decide to marry me, you have to marry my kids and you have to marry my family." And it was like, "That's no problem. That's totally fine with me." So he came unexpectedly to see my mom, one day, and I was 3 years old at this time. They immediately fell in love. My grandparents approve of him, and then my mom was like, I don't want to leave you guys. This is not something I want to do. And then my grandma was like, well, there are better opportunities, to live in the United States. So then it was a tough conversation to have with my grandparents, but she, decided to it'd be best to go to the United States and live there, and then provide money to y'all and to my kids. But she didn't bring my sister and I. And the reason being was that my mom was afraid of how he was gonna turn out. What happens if he switches up. When she gets over there. What happens if it becomes this or becomes that? Now he has to my mom now has to drag us along with this process.
Right.
That's kind of essentially what happened with my my biological dad. So my mom was kind of like, I don't know if I wanna do that.
Right.
So she left at the age of 3 years old. I was 3. She left my sister and I, year 2000. And then shortly after, 9/11 happened, and then the green card process, the traveling process, was very, very difficult. So I didn't get to see my mom I saw her. She came back maybe once every 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
But I essentially grew up in the Philippines for almost 6 years, and my grandparents raised me from the age of 3 till 10 years old. So that's where a lot of my morals and values came up.
Those are very formative years.
Very formative
3
years.
to 10.
Yeah, I didn't have a mom growing up, but I had my grandma. I didn't have a father figure growing up, but my grandpa didn't say much. Typical, Asian grandpa or Asian dad. Let's say. Didn't say much. Didn't say anything at all besides through his actions and through his demeanor.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to imitate that as best as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
You
That's
wouldn't
what
see
kinda
that
crazy
at all.
story.
Yeah.
And then you were in the Philippines till 10, 11?
Yep, 3 till I was 10.
And then your mom was able to get you
Yep.
a green card and then come.
Yep,
Because then
yep.
she was a citizen then. At
Yeah,
that
she was a
point?
citizen. Yeah,
Yeah.
right when she got there, they got married through the judge and everything like that. And then she became a citizen real quick. But yeah, the green card process was just so difficult because of like during that time there was so many things that was happening with like the traveling process and everything. So it just made it really, really difficult. She was able to come back, you know, visit us like I think maybe 3 times in the past like 5 years, maybe 3 or 4 times, something like that. But the process was difficult. We had to like go to like the capital, my grandma and I and my sister, go talk to the U.S. embassy, ask us all these questions and everything.
Right.
So it was a tricky and tough process for
Yeah,
sure.
that sounds pretty difficult, especially as a child going through that experience. Your mom's back for like a little bit, and then she's gone, and then at some point you almost accept that. Like I assume, right? I'm only assuming, but I'm assuming that at some point you almost accept, like, you know what, mom just doesn't live here with us. So, so I love mom. I know mom, but she's not here. So I'm just gonna make my own life with my grandparents, and then you just almost, I'm assuming there's some level of acceptance that like, okay, grandma and grandpa are pretty much they're my guardians.
Yeah, no, there was that point where I always hated it. I always hated that the kids had dads. I always hated it that the kids had moms, and I just had grandparents.
Yeah.
And I hated that so much. I hated that I didn't have a father growing up. I hated that I didn't have a mother growing up, and that would come into my conscience like here and there, and then reality would hit me in the face pretty much and say like, but you have your grandparents, and that like was the only thing that kept me going like through that chaos in my life, was having my grandparents. So yeah, there was plenty of moments and plenty of times of like, this is how I didn't even know that I was going to the United States. First of all, I didn't even know that I was.
Yeah, when did you find that out?
Yeah,
It wasn't until probably like when my mom came back. She was like, "Hey, you know, I'm gonna like at 10 years old." When she came back, she was like, "You know, this whole time I've been trying to get you to the United States," and I was like, "I didn't know. I thought you were just gonna come visit us." You know,
Like,
here
yeah,
and
just
there.
like before, you're gonna
just
come
before
visit.
That's all.
And then I didn't really realize until the day I got into that taxi, the day that my mom was saying goodbye to my grandma. That day I was sitting in a taxi with my sister, with my half brother. I sat there. I was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I was excited. I was absolutely excited. And then reflecting back on it today as an adult, on how sad it was to see my grandparents lose their grandkids.
Yeah. Well, they raised you.
Exactly.
They raised you. That's what's wild.
That was crazy part. So yeah.
You were how old?
10 years old.
Okay.
So how was that reestablishing that relationship with your mother? Like, how are you guys today? And then like, how was that transition process?
Yeah, it was interesting growing up. You know, trying to find an identity. You know, being this fresh off the boat kid, essentially.
And you didn't speak no English, right?
No English.
Yeah, no English.
In Minnesota?
Yeah, in Minnesota. Yeah, Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Yeah, so establishing my identity, trying to like who I am as a person. There was a lot of things going on. Didn't know how to speak a lick of English. Trying to like, I was so excited to see my mom. Like, oh my gosh, like this is mom and everything. But it was a different type of stress then. You know, my mom was going through her own things. You know, my dad was going through his own things. So it was trying to like work as a unit, as a family. You know, that was a really interesting thing because I had my half brother during that time, and he was the priority. But now the dynamic kind of changed now of like, well, my sister and I are here now, so how do we work together? As a unit? So there were a lot of things that went on during my upbringing where I kind of just try to find my identity. And essentially I was the middle child, so there's a lot of truth of being a middle child.
Yeah.
Where you kind of do your own thing.
Little forgotten.
Be independent and all that stuff. So that was kind of exactly what happened. But today, absolutely love my mom to death. She's an amazing woman. That woman is one of the hardest people, one of the hardest person I know. And she is absolutely an amazing Asian mom. I think we can all testify.
Yeah, and I think now too, that you're older, you can actually see that there was a plan, right? There's a plan the whole time.
Yep.
But when we're 10, we have no idea.
Absolutely no idea.
Yeah, and how lucky, like, that it actually, like, followed through, you know, because so many, I'm sure, like, so many people in her positions, like, wanted to do that same thing and had so many good intentions, but for whatever reason, that plan never came into fruition. But yeah, like, what a beautiful story, though.
Yeah, no, and the big part of that story too was the background character of my stepdad. My stepdad always supported my mom unconditionally.
Yeah.
He absolutely knew that I'm working my ass off essentially to bring my kids here.
Yeah.
She was a nursing assistant during that time, and the pay was very, very low. So she studied her ass off again to become an RN because she was a registered nurse in the Philippines, but like, she couldn't come and transfer those credits here. So it was a different story. So then there was a period, a year where she was like studying her butt off and trying to become an RN so that she could provide, a better quality of life for my sister, for everybody, my sister and I. So a lot of sacrifices needed.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect
See,
your
like,
mom.
Yeah, you hear those stories
And to your grandparents,
like,
too.
Yeah.
you can't help but go, man, like, what am I doing? Like, how am I providing for my kids, and what struggles am I going through where I can even like how do I compare these?
I always like hearing stories like that too. It's like we can kind of relate because we're first generation immigrants. Me, like James, I didn't come here till I was 10, just like you, speaking no English. But I think those stories are important to hear because sometimes we need to be leveled a little bit. Like everybody's got struggles, right? Whether you grew up here, anywhere you grew up, everybody's got personal struggles with themselves. But sometimes it's nice to also compare. Like I like to compare once in a while, not to say who's better or worse, but to sometimes just be more grateful. To be like,
just hearing,
and hearing it and say like, maybe, okay, like there's certain areas where I had it better. Not saying I'm better, just I had it better. Therefore, I can be grateful for that my situations were not as bad, right? So it's important to hear those stories, and I think that's why like I also want to bring James on because it's like that story is a pretty difficult one as well. For some children it could break them. It's very likely to
I
break
was a
them.
bad kid in the Philippines.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. There's a lot of turbulence. It's a turbulent upgrowing.
Yeah, I was a naughty kid for sure.
Well, how was it here though? Like, because I bet if you were tough there, coming here where you didn't know English in Coon Rapids, especially at the time, definitely did not have a lot of Asian Americans.
No, definitely not. Yeah, here it was a difficult switch here too. I was put in the ESL. I was made fun a lot with a lot of white kids out there. With didn't know how to speak lick of English, trying to establishing my identity, and I hated when people made fun of me, so I just fight everybody. That was my way to resolve things. Like make fun of me, I'll just end up punching you. And my mom was actually the one that said that. She was like, if someone makes fun of you, if someone's being bullied you, just fucking hit them.
Because she probably
stand
went
up for
through a
yourself.
lot of that too. Coming here, probably having limited English and just not understanding the culture. She probably dealt with so much of that too.
No, she did. She absolutely did. And she experienced that at her workplace at the hospital. And I would send to the principal office, and then they would have to tell my mom of like what happened. And my mom goes, "Well, he was bullied. Like what would you expect him to do? Like just take it? Like he was being bullied. Like how?" And she'd be like, "I was like, how about I hit the kid?"
And how about like at the time, like there wasn't a lot of sympathy for kids getting bullied. No.
It's not as receptive as
today. It's a different story today. But no, back then it was a different time.
If you were getting bullied, like you had to stand up for yourself. Nobody was gonna look out or advocate for you.
So it was a lot of trying to find my identity through elementary school because I was in 5th grade in elementary school. Middle school was trying to find like my identity as well, and then I was everywhere. In terms of my friends. I really connected with people, immigrants. I really connected with like the BIPOC people for sure. That was one. A population that I absolutely admired and I adored and enjoyed. And then in high school, that's when I saw a bunch of Asians, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
You went to Blaine?
I went to Blaine,
Okay.
yeah. And when I saw
what year was this?
when I went to Blaine, probably like 2011.
Okay, 2011. Because that's kind of when we started seeing a lot of people start to move out into the suburbs.
And there was a lot of Asians. I remember specifically like as soon as you stepped into the cafeteria, there was just like 3 or 4 rows of Asian tables just talking and enjoying and stuff. But you could see a clear distinction of like the popular kids would sit over here, then the jocks, and then like the theater kids maybe will sit here, and then like the eccentric kids would sit here, and then the Asians would sit right here. Right?
Sounds like
that's a real thing. Like
sounds like a prison lunchroom to me.
And I was so thankful of that because I could finally establish who I was with my identity. Like this is me. Like I wanted to be this, and I was not gonna let that go. Like all my life, I've been trying to figure out who I am, and I was in a mixed bag of people. I was with the Arabs, I was with the blacks, I was with the whites. I was with the Russians, I was with the Asians. So I was essentially everywhere, but I never felt comfortable in who I wanted to be and I wanted to be as a person. And then when I got with when I went to high school, then I saw a clear distinction of like, these are the people who definitely I align with my values and my morals. And I was like, then I'm never gonna let that go. And I learned so much from that experience. Yeah. So
Yeah, there's definitely a cultural thing with Asian culture, that's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Like even when I traveled to Asia a couple months ago, you can tell the culture is just way different. Like, and we see it with the new generation of like younger Asian kids who are now born Americans too. Like, there's there's that dividing factor of like generational gap, but also cultural gap.
When I went to Thailand, they knew I was American.
Yeah.
They knew it. Just
so
they
funny.
looked at me. I mean, there was only maybe one or two times where I was mistaken for Thai or something.
Yeah.
But like my wife, she's like lighter in complexion and like she looks like she's never been outside a day in her life. You know, with me it was like a little bit more like confusing, but like they knew, they picked her off like right away. They were like, "Yeah, you're not from here. Yeah, you're an American. Yeah, and not just not from here, but American.
Yeah, you're
specifically.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that works because I was actually recently in the Philippines, and my cousins, one of my close cousins, he kind of took me everywhere, and then we went to like the thrift stores, like the markets, like just the places that your typical tourist would not go to. And there was a lot of people would just look at me and be like, "Yeah, you're not from here.
Yeah.
You're absolutely not."
Do you
from
have an
here."
accent when you speak Filipino now? Like, can they tell that? Because obviously you're a Filipino through and through, grew up speaking it.
Yeah.
And I kind of I've had a similar experience too, where I grew up in France speaking French, but now when I go back to France, my French is still pretty much spot on, but my accent is a little bit American behind my French, so they can tell right away. Is it the same for you?
Same exact thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. When I
okay.
speak my Bisaya language, they'll know. They know I don't have the accent, so I have to intentionally kind of switch that accent on to make sure that they kind of understand what I'm saying. Because exactly how I'm speaking right now, I would just
but in Filipino,
Bisaya,
as opposed to using their
the tonal language
their
behind it.
tones and their
exactly. So people will kind of look at me
You
like,
can tell,
you're definitely not from here. So then when I switched to like that tonal language and I switched back to that to English, then there's some residue from my tonal language in the side. So it kind of worked. It's kind of funny how that works sometimes.
Do you ever speak just English in the Philippines sometimes, just to act like you're just a straight American tourist? Because I've done that when I was like when I was like 21, 22, and I'd go back to France. I'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna speak straight English right now. I'm gonna just pretend I'm not even French at all. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I'm not French at all, just to see how this goes. Now I don't do this as much anymore, but when I was 21, I thought it was super funny.
How classically like American of you to just go speak
just
English.
go mess around.
Even if I'm in your country, you're gonna speak my language.
No, there was only one time that I can recall where I did speak English, and that was when I went to the mall and I kind of got tired of speaking Bisaya because it takes so much cognitive effort.
Yeah, more energy.
Then I just and I was talking to the lady because I was trying to purchase gifts, and I just spoke English to her. That was the only time because I just got so tired of cognitively trying to like this is how I talk in Bisaya, but that was the only time.
And so your language is Bisaya?
Bisaya. Yeah.
So how many different dialects, or is it different languages in the Philippines, or are they dialects or languages?
Yeah, they're different dialects essentially. It's kind of like Hmong Green and Hmong White. There's that. There's Tagalog, which is the main language that people speak in the capital in Manila, and then there's
and
Bisaya.
you can still communicate with them just fine.
We can understand them, but they can't understand us.
Oh, really?
Wow.
So it's a little different
It's
then.
a little different,
Okay.
yeah. Because a lot of like
different.
the show dramas, sometimes the news, it's all spoken in Tagalog. Definitely the movies, like the mainstream movies, are all speaking. It's all in Tagalog, so we can definitely understand that. But they cannot. I don't think they can understand us. They know it's a different dialect for sure. Wow. And then there's other regions in the Philippines where it's completely different too. When you get to the southern regions or the super northern regions, there's a region in the Philippines where all they do is speak Spanish because we're colonized by the Spanish. Yeah.
So what is the second language? Is it Spanish then that is most commonly taught in school? Like when you go to school, you
English.
learn. Oh, it's English.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Spanish still? Where do you see influence in Spanish colonialism around? Is it just in the foods?
Yeah.
Okay.
Food for sure.
Yeah.
And religion. Like we are the most Catholic.
Right.
We're the most we are so Catholic. And then when you get to the southern regions, then we see a lot more Muslims, which is really, really cool. Because you see like Indonesia, Malaysia, you'll see a lot of Muslims there too. But it's you either Catholic or
Yeah.
you're Muslim or I don't know what else, what other
That
religion.
makes a lot of sense because like a lot of my Filipino friends, like they're like hardcore Catholics.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hardcore.
Yeah.
Hardcore for sure. Hardcore. So yeah.
So how many islands does that
Yeah,
consist
I
of?
just pulled up the map. Yeah.
There's a lot, right?
Well,
There's
it's not every day that I look at a map of the Philippines.
Yeah.
Even though I have, because he just went there. James just went there, not too long ago, and he
really?
told me, what, like a month ago?
Yeah.
Not even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A month and a half. Yeah.
And I think, and James had mentioned like I should go there next time, which I absolutely want to go see the Philippines.
Oh, I didn't even know. Look at that. It's on the same lateral line as Vietnam,
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
That's pretty far. How far is it from Vietnam? Where do you fly to? So what was your route when you
Yeah.
flew to Philippines? Just curious.
Yeah, my route was from Minneapolis to Seattle,
Okay.
to Taipei,
Okay.
and Taipei
Taiwan,
to
okay.
Cebu.
Gotcha.
A lot of times, because I flew with somebody who was going to Vietnam, there was the same route, but then it was from Taipei to Vietnam, and it was a 4-hour flight. So maybe from the
Taipei to
Philippines,
Vietnam.
yeah,
Okay.
Philippines to Vietnam, probably
Yeah.
like a
So
5-hour
Philippines, just so you guys know, if you're just listening in, Taiwan is directly north of the Philippines,
Yep.
and then west of the Philippines is the next landmass is Vietnam, closest to the Philippines. So it's kind of by itself there, in between the South China Sea and the Philippine Sea, and the Celebes Sea on the south side.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah.
So when you're speaking to your mother, like, are you guys speaking in English?
Yeah, what are you
or
speaking now?
in
Yeah, I tell her to speak Bisaya to me. That's what I tell her. So I'll try to respond in Bisaya because there's not a lot of Bisaya people. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
Cebuanos who speak, or at least Cebuanos here. Although I do know a couple, but we're a very very small community. That's for
Yeah.
sure. There's a lot more people who speak Tagalog. But I tell her like talk to me in Bisaya. I don't want to.
Very intentional.
Yeah, it's very
Okay.
intentional. I don't want to lose my
You
tongue.
don't want to lose it,
I
yeah.
don't want to lose it at all. It was really hard when I went back. I was talking to my grandmother. I kind of had to pull up fucking Google Translator to kind of
Yeah.
see
yeah.
like how do I say a certain word. But yeah, no, it's very
How
intentional.
how big of that is like your identity? Like how big of a part of it is your language?
It's big. I just don't get to practice it enough.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
don't get to speak it enough.
Yeah, like
it's so
that's a
small.
big topic in in the Hmong community right now. Is like we're coming on. You know, we have our second
It's
and
been
third
like 30,
generation
40 years.
Americans
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, and so a lot of kids, like my
Forgetting, yeah.
daughters don't know how to speak Hmong. And so I'm gonna eventually put them in Hmong class. But yeah, it's a topic of conversation right now. So like you being not born here, like, and then now living here, like, do you plan? Is this something you plan to teach your kids? Like,
Yeah,
when they
that's
grow
a
up?
great question. No, I absolutely, yes. Because I tell people all the time, like, if you speak a different language, speak that to them. That improves, firstly, if you want to do, like, with a scientific fact, like, that improves cognitive
Yeah,
performance.
that's what I was
already.
gonna say.
Yeah,
Cognitive
yeah.
ability
I've
to
heard
have
that,
multiple
yeah.
languages.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
changes your thinking too, because you have to think in a different. It's almost like just by knowing that new vocabulary or words, you are given like a second set of mindset.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad that you're pointing that out because it's a second way to kind of process your situations,
Yes.
your scenarios, because the language that we use is different.
Different
right?
vocabularies, different meanings for words. Yeah,
So the way
you
we
have to
process,
think differently. Yeah.
the way we process that is going to be completely different. So
Yeah.
absolutely, that I encourage people, if you speak a different language, teach it to them.
Okay.
Absolutely teach it to them
Alright.
because they're gonna be able to process things differently. It's gonna be a unique experience for them.
Yeah.
The way they're
Or go learn another language.
Yeah.
Go learn.
Or go
another
learn a language.
I got some homework to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's some. Yeah, I think
Homework
that's
to
the
do at
thing
home.
that because you speak. So you speak two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Do
then,
you speak Spanish also then, or
No, I know. No. We have Spanish like language, like Spanish words and everything like that. But
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. That's completely foreign to me.
Okay.
Yeah. But I definitely encourage people speak. Learn a different language if you can. If you already have that native tongue, definitely teach family or your kids to speak that native tongue. There's so many advantages in that in life and career-wise too.
Yeah.
The more we progress as a society here in the United States of America, the more people are going to speak different languages.
Right.
So having a different language in your belt is going to be a big thing
yeah,
in career and your outlook in life. So
yeah, language is always a good. Like I'm trying to learn another one, like Spanish, just to.
yeah.
I think it's just every time I've traveled, it just always helped me so much. Like, not that I can speak Spanish, just a little bit, but it's just like you could just see people's like how they open up to instantly.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
probably respond to you.
Yeah, they're like,
differently,
oh wow,
if you-
he's trying, and that's like when I went to Thailand, same thing. Or like I just learned the bare minimum, but like the quickest way to connect with somebody from another place is try to speak their language, like as opposed to just come in and be like, yeah, I'm from America. I hope you speak English because I need some food. Like that's not gonna work. You gotta like,
Well,
try.
That makes so much sense because my brother-in-law, he's Vietnamese, but he doesn't look it. You know, he's like stocky. He's darker complexion, so he doesn't look like like classically like a Vietnamese person when you think of one. But then every time we go eat like at a Vietnamese restaurant, he always makes an effort to greet them in his native language, and it's almost kind of setting that precedent. Like, hey, like I speak that same language. Yeah, and
It connects people so quickly.
Yeah, and it lets them know like where I don't know. Not that they're gonna like treat you any worse
Different, but
or
it's an
different,
effort.
but
It's you're showing effort.
Yeah.
You're showing effort.
yeah.
Cultural people love that, especially like immigrants. When you speak their language, like they get so shocked. There's a white guy on YouTube, and he's a savant at speaking different languages.
The
You know
guy
what
that
I'm
went to
talking-
Africa.
Yeah,
recently,
yeah.
right?
Is it
Yeah.
Zhao
Oh, I
Ming?
love that.
Yeah,
Zhao
and
Ming
he
something?
speaks like
Yeah.
from a Chinese dialect to like
Arabic
African
dialects,
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
and they absolutely love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
just speaking
Well,
different.
Polyglots.
Can we talk about that?
Polyglots.
Like, because I think one of the issues right now is like, like when you're making fun of a dialect, like where do you draw the line of making fun of somebody's dialect and then like really showing appreciation or making an effort to learn?
Yeah.
Because like when I say certain words, like in Spanish, like for example, sometimes I'll roll my tongue, and some people go, "Why do you do that? Like that's not necessary." And so I think it can. I don't know. It's a poor example, but like,
No, I get it though.
yeah, especially like in the Asian community,
Like burrito.
yeah.
Burrito or
Burrito.
yeah.
But that's like trying, right?
Yeah.
You could say burrito,
Where I
or you
feel
can
like-
try to say burrito, which is probably doesn't sound right still,
Yeah.
but you're trying to sound more like them.
Yeah, but like here in America, I think we kind of view that as like, oh, you're making fun of them. But I think like
No, you're
a lot of
trying,
people
yeah.
like from that area kind of go, like they appreciate that
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
more. You know, I don't
I
know.
think so.
I
think so.
It's a I don't know. Like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, no, it kind of goes back to the person's intentions, right? If you're doing it to kind of make fun of them and to be a comic about it, then
Yeah.
you're an absolute terrible person to make fun of someone's language because they
Right.
speak a different language from you. But if you're putting the effort and being intentional of like, this is the reason why I'm doing this is because I respect your language so much.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm able to give that respect to you because
Yeah.
I mean, I admire the culture, I
Right.
admire you. So it really goes back to your intentions. And a lot of times people do a lot of mind reading. I'm like, I know what your intentions are. I
Yeah.
exactly know when you roll your R's, that means you're being racist, Peng.
Yeah.
That's you being racist or you, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's like you kind of have to tell them like, no, I admire these people's culture
Right.
so much.
Right.
This is what I want to do. Like when I went to a Mexican restaurant the other day, and when I order carne asada, I'm like, yeah, can I please get a carne asada with pollo or something like that?
Yeah.
So I really put that accent out there because I want to give them that respect.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of people out there who think that like no, you're not monopolizing, but you're trying, you're colonizing their what their cultures, whatever. But no, I for me personally too, when I have people people like non-Filipino people who try to speak to me and they try to tell me the different foods that they've experienced, like if you put in the effort of how the sound of that food or the sound of whatever that thing is, like I appreciate it.
Right.
It just depends on your intentions because personally I can kind of know when someone is being intentional and not being intentional through just the years of
the energy too. There's an energy that you throw across there that
Absolutely.
is easy, that you can read. Most
Yeah.
humans can read each other
Yeah.
just through the energy.
Yeah, there was a white guy
sure.
too at the restaurant, and when he was ordering, he was speaking in Spanish, and I was like, "That's so cool! Like,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you're doing that, putting
Yeah.
that respect, because like, I just want to let you know, English is not the dominant language in this world.
Right,
There
yeah.
are other languages out there, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're doing that. And I never once thought that he was being malicious about it, or
Yeah.
never once thought that he was being ignorant about it. It's just a lot of people out there where it's like, that person is a different culture, like, you know, you have to be mindful of not, you know, you can't say anything that might be offensive to them. But it's like, well, it just depends on what your intentions are. You know? If you're being intentionally good, it will reflect on what you're trying to do. It will reflect on your actions. But if it's not a good intention, it will also reflect as well. So,
sorry if this sounds like a dumb question. Like, are you a Joe Coy fan?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like when he does a Filipino accent, you know, his intentions is to be funny. But I feel like he's maybe more telling a authentic story.
That is,
versus,
you can't tell a Filipino story without being authentic, right?
Yeah.
You have to really put.
Is Joe Coy half?
No, I think he's full.
He's full?
Yeah, he's full. Yeah, I think I don't know where.
He's pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't know if he was born here or born outside the United States.
So in case you don't know, Joe Coy is a Filipino comedian.
Yeah, Filipino comedian.
In the States.
I think he recently does he have a show out now or a sitcom show? But yeah, he does I think he's kind of known for like doing the Filipino accent.
Yeah. I love those BIPOC comedians, dude. Like they're the absolute best. I mean, you see from Gabriel Iglesias, you see who else? Russell Peters, like like those guys. Like when they.
But now you got Ronnie
Chang.
Yeah. He's like a Chinese Australian.
Yeah, Chinese Australian.
Yeah. That's a very unique sound too.
So there's a lot of.
So like, there's a way to kind of do it authentically and do it in a way where it's like respectful. What if you hear that from a Filipino person? Can they? Well, I guess like in the terms of in that example of the restaurant, like it can be done in an endearing way.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it just depends on what your intentions are, right? Like if you it's all about context, and a lot of times people don't see context. They just immediately assume that this person is being malicious, or this person has bad intentions. I think it's just a natural way for us to see more the negative things than the good things in life. So, but no, it's definitely goes back. It just goes back to the intentions. Especially if they're being curious too, like if they mispronounce like a word in my language, right? And I'll correct them, and I'm like, or they'll say like, how do you say that again?
Right.
And they put in the effort. You know, if you're being curious, if you're being open, and you're being mindful, and you're being aware of how you're doing it, it will always reflect as good intentions. Always. The curiosity piece is the big one, especially if you're a curious person, if you're being intentional of like, how do you say this, or how do I do this? It will always show that you're being good intentions with it.
Here's the question out of left field. What do you think about people that think that you should only speak one language, say English, and like some people believe they should just speak that one language and like not, like let's say you work at a Mexican restaurant or a Chinese restaurant, Hmong restaurant, like they want you to all speak English. Like what's your opinion on that? Like, you know, some people just don't. They think you got to speak the one language. And I personally agree to some degree because you live in the country. But I think it's just messed up as well when people think like you should only speak the one language of the country. Like you're deleting people's ability to carry on their identity.
Sorry, I know the question is for you, James, but I think a big part of that is just like, have some empathy. You know,
right?
If somebody can't speak your native tongue like fluently, you know, like, so if like somebody comes here and can't speak English like super well, like I think it's a shitty thing to just.
But I think someone's always going to give you smack, right? Because I get smack from Hmong people. With my Hmong being so shitty, so it kind of comes from all over, right? It can come from all angles. So it goes back to what you were saying, James, where it's like it depends on the person who you're talking to ultimately. Some are more understanding than others, and then some will not be as understanding because I get it from Hmong people as well.
If you're a type of person where it's like you need to only speak a certain language, like if it's a Hmong person, you only need to speak Hmong to me. Like I will never respond to you in English. Or if you're talking to an American person, if they only speak English, like this space is only English. I mean, my curiosity always goes to is why. Like, why is it that way? Is it because it makes you feel uncomfortable that I'm speaking a different language? Is it because like you're unable to you don't have patience? Like why? Like it just goes back to the why.
You do have to have a little patience.
You
do have to have patience because it can be frustrating
Yeah.
to like not understand what this person's saying.
Yeah, and it's
or-
very self-centered too. If you're impatient about it, because if I took you to a different country,
Yeah.
and then now all of a
But
sudden
then that
we're
means that means you either have a broad perspective or you maybe have traveled.
yeah,
You know, because when you've traveled, you always go through that.
yep. And
You
those
know.
people who are very firm and like, you need to only do this. It goes to show you how kind of closed-minded their world is.
Or being used to tourists. Like I feel like in places where they're used to tourists, like when I went to Thailand, it seems like they're pretty mostly patient, you know, because
they
a
know,
lot,
they
the
understand
industry is tourism, and we are there to spend money and stuff.
They understand.
But then, like, I can just picture myself, like, let's say I just spoke only French, and I didn't try to speak any English, and I went to, I don't know, smallest town, Minnesota, up north.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I wouldn't get that same amount of patience, or maybe I would.
Yeah.
It's individually driven. Individually driven. Yeah, individually driven.
If you look like you do now, you might get some pushback.
Yeah.
But if you look French, you know.
But I have a U.S. Marine tattoo on my arm.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well,
It comes down to the person.
Yeah, like that's, you know, I did a presentation to some kids, to some Hmong kids. It was a group of Hmong kids, inner city Hmong kids. And that question got brought up because I was doing the presentation mostly in English. And there were 90% Hmong kids. There were some other kids, but they were kind of like, hey, you know, it was just like a really casual presentation. So just like open dialogue. But one of the questions was like, are you like whitewashed? Like, do you speak any Hmong at all? Like, he's like, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm just trying to get an understanding. I'm like, I had no clue how to answer that. I was just like, yeah, you know, when I'm at work, I'm kind of in this work mode. I can speak Hmong, and I'm very comfortable speaking Hmong. But it kind of depends who I'm with. When I'm at work, like, I've been conditioned to just kind of speak English. And so it's, like, hard for me to turn it on and off. You know, when I'm at home, it's a little bit different. But here I'm in work mode, and you know, I also want to be respectful to like a lot of the non-Hmong.
Yeah. The other kids.
Well, that person was clearly not being mindful on how they were talking.
Yeah.
To you,
But you know, it's also that.
Was it a kid
know,
that
it
asked
was
you
a
that?
kid.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
It was a kid, you know.
Oh, okay.
But you know,
Fine.
and so,
Yeah.
We give him a pass.
Yeah.
Give the kid a
And-
pass.
And I think that goes back to what you were saying. Like, I think that person was just curious.
Exactly,
And this is a topic that's going on in our community. And so I think a lot of people are interested in what different people have to say about these different types of stuff.
Yeah.
And I talked to him about essentially what we talked about was just like you know, you never want to isolate or make anybody feel like they're not Hmong or not whatever they claim to be. You know, and essentially just creating a room where people can feel welcomed. And also not to box anybody or not, you know, or to box out anybody from that identity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting, and it was kind of cool to be around kids again, and they're just natural.
Yeah.
Did you go teach him?
genuine
You want to teach him,
curiosity.
taught him about farming
Yeah,
or beekeeping?
farming. But then a lot of the conversation did kind of steer towards, okay, culturally, how did you go about doing that? And how does it kind of feel to be kind of like a person of color and farming?
I can only imagine the questions were like you're Hmong and you're doing that. Like,
and you're a young guy. You know, it's like you're not
like a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah,
you're not doing like the things your parents
that's
like.
exactly a question that came up. She was like, so you went to college, you went to school,
And now you're a beekeeper?
and now you had a job, like, and you gave that up. How did that conversation, and how did you convince your parents to do that? And I was like, one, you know, dad left when I was young, and my mother passed, but no, but you know, my mom was cool with it. Like,
Welcome to real life, kids.
yeah. But I did tell him, I was like, eventually, you know, you get to a point in your life where your relationship with your parents, you're always gonna have that father, son or daughter relationship, or father, mother, whatever, kid parent relationship with them. But you're gonna get to a point where you're able to have some of these dialogues a lot more, and it's you know, they're gonna always try to tell you what to do, and at some point you have to put your foot down. But yeah, it is a complicating thing, right? I think especially for first generations, where it's like, how do we remain respectful to our parents without being inauthentic to ourselves?
Can you be respectful as a kid and understand that you're being respectful?
I think
Maybe I was just
I
a
think
bad kid.
as a
I think I was just a
parent,
bad kid.
you'll have to understand that kids are going to be curious and not to take it as disrespectful.
Not take it as
Yeah,
disrespect.
yeah.
Yeah. That's hard though, as an
Yeah.
adult, for us to like remember that. Oh yeah, we were kids once,
Yeah,
and we also
yeah.
did stupid things.
Yeah.
And it's like a fine line. You're trying to think that way, but then you're also trying to be like, yeah, I got to think like a kid, so I can
Yeah.
remember where they're from. But then I'm also the person who must create the structure, the rules, and
Yeah.
and you have to abide by them. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, I was like listening to this interview from this therapist, and he was kind of saying you kind of have to be like you have to expect your kid to, disrespect you in a way, and you because that's just them naturally being curious and asking about things. But I think we can interpret that as disrespect. If we ask you to mop the floors, to a kid, that kid is just like, why? Like, but I think it's important to, like he was saying, it's important to just explain it to them versus just I'm telling you to do something
Shutting it
or
down.
bullying them
Yeah.
into doing that. Like I'm
Yeah.
telling you to do that because you need to do that,
Yeah.
and you need to just listen to me.
Yeah.
And I thought he said, because he said something that really was very important to me was, he said when that kid becomes 15, 16 years old and he meets like somebody who, like maybe a bully or something in high school, and that bully tells them to do X, Y, and Z, you want them to kind of challenge that in a way too, and not just kind of do things because someone tells them to do it. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting concept. I don't know. I forgot what we were talking about. I don't know how relevant
Yeah,
it
no,
is,
no,
but-
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having the kids be open and curious instead of
Yeah.
shutting it down. Because you see that a lot of times with Asian parents, especially, right?
yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're naturally being curious, all of a sudden their response is, "Well, I told you so."
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. But no, there's a lot of truth in that. Is having kids be kids. If you don't let kids to be kids, they're gonna internalize everything,
Right.
and they're gonna either grow spite towards you,
Yeah.
or they're just gonna hate you, or whatever that is. It's always gonna leave a negative impact if you're
Yeah.
not naturally curious with them as well. So
Yeah.
you also got to put in the effort of like understanding of like this is a kid,
Yeah.
and the kid is just being curious, and I just
Right.
have to accept that.
I wonder if
Yeah.
that's changed in Asia. Like in America, that's kind of the thing, right? Of how you raise your kids' mental health,
Yeah.
talk about their choices, the emotions, the
it goes-
consequences. Like, is it like that? I wonder if it's like that in Asia, or if
No.
Asia still has the same.
Yeah. It's uncommon, I think, for sure, and I think it reflects on the values because like
Yeah.
it's very like
Differences in culture.
very big in the values. You'll talk to I'll have a few BIPOC clients, or I'll have Asian clients, and I'll ask them, why is it like this, and it's difficult for them to answer it, and it always goes back to, because I was taught this way, and they
Yeah.
did not understand why they were taught that way. It was just that
Yeah.
it is the way it is. Like for example, like I have my girlfriend, she's Hmong, and she talks about like, well, it's just the way being a Hmong woman, like Ocean
Yeah.
Day, or like
Yeah.
or doing the things right away without any questions, and like there was no explanation in that. It was just
Right.
that this is how it's gonna be, and this is how it's going,
Yeah.
how it is.
And I think culturally, like the biggest difference between America and what I've seen from other cultures is like, especially in Asian cultures, it's like in Asia you do things for the greater good of the whole community.
Collective.
Versus,
Yeah.
versus
collective.
in
Right.
America, it's very
Individualistic.
Individualistic, yeah. You're doing it for yourself, for your
Yeah.
wife, your kids.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're even cutting out siblings and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the thing
And it's
with
like personal identity,
yeah, right,
personal, yeah.
right. How can I make an image of myself? It's hard not to get lost in that too.
Yeah.
Like when we grew up here, you
Yeah,
know.
and that was an interesting when I first met you too, especially was that this dude's Hmong. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
way
Yeah,
this
a
dude's
little-
Hmong because
I felt
the way
that
he
way.
thought, the way he was, yeah.
A little individualistic,
Yeah,
yeah.
his
Even
thought
my wife
process.
tells me that sometimes,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're just thinking about what you want to do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's definitely, I don't know. I'm like, man, I don't know. That works well for America, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always work well for
Collectively,
in
it's a diff-
general.
yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah,
Because
it
like,
works
yeah,
well
because
for America.
I've never met an individualistic Hmong person before.
Yeah.
And then when I started talking to two, I'm like, wow, like you're definitely don't have that
Yeah.
same like traditional Hmong mentality.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool, and it was actually kind of
If you
refreshing.
smoke enough weed, your mind expands
yeah.
really far.
There's a lot of truth in that too.
Not speaking about myself though. Just saying.
Yeah.
You spoke too much and you fucking lose your shit. I am speaking about myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was. A
I mean,
really
part of that
interesting-
too is just growing up in part of that is growing up in France for the first 10 years of my life as well. Like that's a part of it as well, growing up in a different culture, not being around Hmong kids, and then being forced to shift over.
Yeah, and then you said so like when you came here, like a lot of the Hmong kids didn't really fuck with you too, like right off the bat.
Yep.
They didn't speak Hmong.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the bathroom quick.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
I don't remember.
kids.
We just took a breaks.
Yeah.
Everybody had to do bathroom breaks, so we kind of forgot what we were talking about there a little bit. But
Yeah. So video editing, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, I don't know. Just like I said, it's like an outlet for me to kind of just keep me sane.
yeah, keep on your artistic side. Were you artistic as a kid, like drawing or like?
No, not at all. I was not good.
Do you
at
like
drawing.
you do photos too? Because I know we film a lot, but I mostly see videos from you.
Mostly videos.
You don't
If I
dabble
do-
with photos
Yeah.
as hard.
No, if I do photos, it wouldn't be like my type of photos would be like in the chaos of things, which might as well do video
Yeah,
than a
right.
photo. Like I've never like if I were to do photo, it would never be like I don't know
Frame portrait
yeah.
shots like here, hold
Yeah.
your hand like this.
Yeah,
and-
no,
yeah,
no,
right.
no.
You like the organic,
Yeah, I'm going
flow
in-
of the city,
yeah.
flow of the people.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah,
in. I'm
I've always
capturing
liked that
those
too.
raw moments.
Right.
So that's what I would like to do. But it's better to do on video instead than
Yeah.
photo.
Yeah, yeah. You capture more of a message. And yeah. Photos I've always liked too, but photos you have to. It's definitely up to your interpretation. I think with video you can kind of guide the narrative
yeah.
of
sure.
where you want the feelings and the emotions to be.
For sure. Yeah.
That's the thing that I always like never really thought about, but I started to think about more often now when we do more videos is like what emotion do we actually want to convey through our video as opposed to just like a photo is just like here's the product.
Yeah.
And okay, that's cool, but like a video is like here's what the product does and how it makes you feel and how you'll feel when you get this product in your hands. Like it'd be like I'm thinking like a video, for example, like for your lip balm, like a close up on some lips and it's all glistening and it looks all juicy
My
and
lips don't look too good.
yeah.
I need to
You need to
hire-
use your
I need
product
to hire a
more.
lip-
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to hire a lip model.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's the best thing about videos is that you can definitely manipulate it in a way where you want you want exactly what the viewers are seeing.
What you
know?
want
Yeah.
them to
What you want to-
interpret out of it.
Yeah, with photos you can definitely interpret it in any different way, which is still amazing.
Which
I
is
mean,
still cool,
that's-
yeah.
Absolutely do it, but yeah, I like having that control
Yeah.
of like having people see what I want them to see.
Do you do any like social media consulting?
No, two is the only one that I consult
Well,
with. Yeah.
if we make yellow really, really pop and work,
Yeah.
then he will have a portfolio of
Yeah.
one company that he helped raise from zero to whatever the future number will be, and then after that he can land any job.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
It's growth as a team, kind of how I always look at it. It's like, hey, everybody's benefiting as long as everybody's growing, becoming a better version of themselves. Even like from the employees that I have here, I always tell them the same thing. It's like, yo, I'm not just trying to make you a great employee for the company. I mean, of course I am. Like, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. But at the same time, I want to pass on other values onto you, like the work ethic or those things too. Those are things you carry forever. You know, like when I was in the service, the thing that I remember most is like I got the opportunity to see different style of like bosses and leaderships and stuff. And it's like those were good times to see what kind of leadership those were about, because we were in firefighting, we didn't do as many crazy dire situations, but on the fire department I did, it's helping people who were like having cardiac arrest, dying, shot, stabbed. You really get to see leaders in those types of settings to see how they react, right? Your best leaders, they keep a nice composure to them. They control the situation. They control not only patients, but they also control staff, people under them, and they never lose it, right? They're just really good leaders. They always kind of have a good, and they're always trying to pass information to make you better, and so that's a tangent, but the whole idea is, like I'm always trying to
improve.
teach,
like, people around you,
right.
And there's room. What is that saying? Like when the tide rises, every boat rises or floats or something. I don't know, but
I don't know, but that
basically
makes sense.
Uplifting everybody.
Yeah.
and everybody
Why
comes
not,
up
right?
together.
Why not?
Yeah.
I always think that. Why not
Yeah.
like uplift everyone around you? Because then you find, in your analogy, you'd find another boat that's at the same height as you, and they'd come help you, and it's kind of like a huge circle of like positive, motivating energy. You know.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of people like that too. It's very rare. Only you and probably Peng too. And very
Nah, yeah, they're there, but yeah, no, for sure.
Very handful of people where they want people to do better.
Yeah.
Very little. Especially if we live in a capitalistic, individualistic America.
I think we
Individualistic.
had this mentality where I think a lot of people are scared. Where I think we have this like scarcity mentality where everybody wants to take.
Everybody does think that scarcity. Yeah,
But
that's
there's
true.
Totally enough for everybody to go around, and when you don't realize if two's doing better.
Everybody does better.
I potentially am doing better. Well, especially with us like sharing this platform, it's just like, all right. That's why I use all my platforms to like share everything, and because I want to share communities, beauty. Like I want to make sure my personal friends are able to kind of see what I'm doing on the farm and on the podcast. All the podcast community see what's going on the farm and in my personal world, and same with the farm. I want to make sure everybody else. So it's like bringing people together, and like essentially bringing both of, and that helps all three things. You know what I'm saying?
It helps everybody.
You know who I think who does a good job at that?
Who
actually does that and is being intentional about it, and not so much of like I need to do it because I need to, but just genuinely is Theo Von. That dude brings in everybody.
Yeah.
That dude just absolutely brings in everybody just because it's like I'm curious and I just like,
Are you a big Theo guy too?
I love him.
Oh shit, dude! I wore my Theo merch.
Oh,
today,
nice.
Yeah, this past weekend merch. I was gonna wear it today.
Be good to yourself.
Yeah, be good to yourself. I love Theo Von, dude.
Probably heard that from his therapist. Be good to yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole comedy scene is really interesting because they talk about how historically it was everybody fighting for themselves and trying to get on a TV show, but now everyone has their own podcast, has their own production, and they go on each.
It benefits everybody to go to your next one, promote them. Like it benefits
you bring your audience. You're sharing audience across all board.
But it makes sense because back in the day, you'd have to, like they always talk about, you'd have to get on a sitcom, which only you had like ABC, NBC, CBS. You didn't have many options.
So many.
Which is now it's kind of the same thing here. Like we all elevate each other's platforms and
and that's what I love like about today's world. Like it truly is a creator's world. Right? And we talk about this a lot. And we beat this we're continually beating the dead horse. But like it's so easy to start your own thing, and everything is so doable, and the cost to barrier to entry is so low, and so there's almost no reason to not do your own thing. And then it's easy to market and bring somebody in and lift somebody up or help somebody.
Unless you're trying to be a psychologist, then you got to go dump a life-saving.
It's very
Don't go to
Yeah,
school.
but it depends. Yeah, it just depends which avenue you take. But you're right that like, not just that, but in this country too, that there's so many opportunities in this country to just like start a business is so super easy.
Yeah.
Like my friend that's in France, he's a business owner, and he was telling me the requirements to start a business in France, and it sounds like crazy. Versus here, it's a lot. If you go on the entrepreneur route, depending on what you're making, if you're building robots, it's a different story. But either way, there's more avenues,
And you realize like the finance part is really just like 5th grade math. It's just adding this, subtracting this. Do I have enough?
Do I have enough to buy the next shipment?
It's like really
Can I buy my
simple.
next
Like,
shipment?
You don't need to be like some kind of genius to,
No, you just need, like
You
my
just
wife
gotta be
always
creative.
my wife always says, you need up to 5th grade math. And then you're good.
Yeah.
As long as you can do adding, subtracting, divisions and stuff like that, then you're pretty much good. But
it's a different world for business owners, man. It's a different world. It's absolutely.
there's a risk.
Yeah.
There's a risk, but I've learned that you learn a lot through the risk as well.
Yeah, I tell too that it's gonna be more difficult for you to turn off your brain because this is
You
literally-
almost can't.
Yeah, this is your survival. If this goes belly up, then it's gonna be tough for you to kind of recover maybe. Yeah. But it's a different mindset for business owners, and I hate to tell people that too, especially business owners, is that like you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
You just gotta try to find a way to kind of find moments of
make
of
it work,
balance.
That's scary because I'm in therapy now, and I talk about this a lot. It's like like the stakes are so much higher. Like when you own your own business and you're trying to grow something. Now I'm a father. Like the stakes are so much higher.
Yeah.
It's like if my company goes belly up, I'm done. I'm done.
hard.
But you know what's crazy though? What's crazy is that like you're trying it, right? And I mean, I hope to all the gods that it becomes extremely successful. But even if it doesn't, let's say if it does, because I always think on both sides. I think the same about my own company. I never say that like it cannot fail because I can't control the markets and I can't control if I got hurt and hit by a bus or whatever, right? But I would say like there's a lesson in that as well. Like you realize like, oh yeah, I can't leave my job and I can't just go try a business even with children and I can still make it survive. It might not be comfortable inside of me, but it's still possible. So at least you know that it's possible to like quit your job, go be an entrepreneur. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. The chances that if it works, it goes huge. And even if you just sustain, you're still living, breathing with a shelter over your head. Yeah. And so you know that, like, okay, it's not the end of the world. But for some people, that is an extreme fear. Like, if I lose my job or if I don't have a job and I go be an entrepreneur and I have my kids, dude, I can't do that. If I do that, then what are my kids going to eat? But then you're at least going through it and you're like, yeah, it's possible. And you're holding you have a job now. Yep. So you're doing what you have to do to run your business, hold a job, and so I think that's what holds people back is like the fear of like what's gonna happen.
Right.
But then you get there and you're like, I'm not saying we're not killing it and making millions, but you're still living.
Yeah.
We still have the option of like you can go to a restaurant and buy the steak. Right. More than likely, right? You can still go buy the steak without being like, oh man, today we're just today is rice and hot dog
once a month.
But you could, right? You could as an option, and that's the thing where I think people feared a lot is like,
how do you teach that too?
How do you teach that? I don't know how you teach that. That's a choice, man. I don't know how you teach that.
You start a podcast and you just
you talk about it.
You talk about it every day, and
you listen to other people who've done it. I think.
So just being more open to other ideas, being open of failures and success, and just being
but some people have
realistic.
different types of like comfort, right? For some people, the comfort really comes in the salary, and I agree, it does. It absolutely does. I didn't go start a business so that I could make less money. I started a business so I could have more financial security. But how much you attach yourself to it is kind of the question. I think is like how much you attach yourself to it, because someone who has a $200K salary, the chances that they're gonna walk away. It is tough. Some people do it well. Some people will save and have investments and assets and say I can walk away from 200K and it's okay. I have enough. But I think most people probably just like, I have enough, but I want more. I want more security. I want more security. I want
and I
it's a
guess
personal
the
choice.
Answer, like, how do you teach that? Like, it's just you realize that life is just a combination of just multiple decisions. And it's like building your support structure, being open-minded, and just allowing for ideas to free flowly and be having a genuine curiosity. I don't know. Like
because that's a question that you're gonna have to answer a lot as business owners. Because people are gonna ask you, especially if they're new business owners, they're gonna ask like, how do you do that? And you're gonna have to kind of essentially, if you're willing to, you want to teach, but also another question is that how do you tell them to accept that? Because for you two, you've accepted that. You've accepted that if whatever happens in the future, I know I'm able to bounce back. How do you find that acceptance? And when did you?
What do you find? I saved some money.
And I'm genuinely curious.
I saved some money first.
My mindset right now is like, I can't lose, I can't fail. That's why.
I have that too. I have that too, 100%. I stay competitive in that mindset, just like you when you're bodybuilding or all that. So I definitely think
I don't know if that's healthy, right? Like, cause like
you need some. I think you need some. You need some.
Yeah.
If you're in business and you don't have that, man, you're gonna flop. You got to be competitive as hell. I think. It's like how they say like.
Of business.
I always think like I'm starting to think kind of like being a business owner is almost like being an athlete. You got to be damn disciplined to wake up, do your training, do your exercising, do your reading, it is a sport, and then not just that, it's a competition. I think about it as a competition a lot. So it is a hobby, it is a passion, but yo, it's still, you know, walking away from my safe salary to come do this, it's still me trying to be like competitive about it. But to answer your question earlier, yeah, I mean, I saved a little bit of money. I mean, I held 2 jobs for 6 years, you know, so it's not like I didn't, you know, I made sure that I had some safety to walk away. My next big question was, what is enough to walk away and go start your own business, right? Like you're saving money to go start your own business. You're doing both, so that you can have a pool of like a little bit of pillows, financial security before you walk away and do your business full time.
Yeah.
But how much is enough? And I asked my friends that question, like, yo, how much money would you want to have in your bank before you felt like it was safe to walk over? And that's that's a question that I wish I could go to ChatGPT and get the answer to, but there is no answer to that one. That one is personal. That one was a tough question for me.
I can tell you, when I started, I had 0 in the bank. I emptied everything.
Yeah. But that's why you're holding a job still, right?
Yeah.
To make up for the difference.
Yeah, and that's why I had this mindset. It's like, I can't fail.
Yeah.
I can't fail. I
Well,
need
you
to
gotta
do
have
everything in my ability to make this work. Like, see a therapist,
Right.
make sure I'm eating good, taking care of my body,
Yeah.
making sure my relationships at home are stable. And then grind.
And we're talking about, right? We're talking about growing a business and trying to make money and like create a future for our family versus James is still in school.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he's
but
helping me do
this applies
videos.
to everything.
Yeah, he's still in school. He's making videos. So for him, he's just seeing the money go out the door. He's not even seeing the money coming in. I mean, I pay him, but it ain't matching what's going out the door. You know, it's flowing. What the hole is, the plug needs. You need a big plug to fix that hole.
And even when you start a business, money's gonna
Yeah, it's still
never
the same.
not
It's
stop
still the
going
same.
out the door. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you have to spend more to make more. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. So if you're not comfortable spending, then you're not going to grow as fast. That's a lesson I learned
I
too.
guess another question similar is like, how much is enough to stop? Like,
How much is enough to stop, like, just working in general?
Like, because we talk about having this like building and growing mindset, but how much is enough until we go? And I think we touched on this a little bit earlier on in the pod, where we don't have to have this crazy grinding mindset, where we can just kind of chill and sit back in.
I think it's just when you think it's enough.
When is that though?
That's the thing you got to think about. I think about that every day. Like, what is it when it's enough? Like, what is enough to me? Because enough to me is probably not enough to you, or maybe not enough to you, or your enough is not my enough. So, like, it's really about, like, just digging deep into yourself and saying, like, screw what everybody else is saying or thinking. What do I want? Like,
Is it a feeling or is it a fact, a number, a factual sheet, like a fact?
well, I
a
was looking
physical
for the
copy?
factual.
Yeah.
I've been looking
Or
for
is
the
it a
factual.
feeling?
I don't seem to find the factual. I think it's just really
So it
where you're
has to be a
comfortable.
feeling.
I mean, like the smart way would be you calculate how many years you think you're going to be alive and how much you spend every single month and if your lifestyle is going to change or not, and make the math, and that would be the correct answer. But
for me, like, the scary thing is to be like 60 and be like, and maybe potentially work myself out of a relationship with my family and my children.
I think if you have that fear, it's not going to happen.
I don't know, man.
I mean, it
don't
could.
know. Yeah,
Anything
yeah,
could
yeah,
happen.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think when you have that fear there, the fears are there for a reason. Like the fear of failing, right?
Yeah.
The fear of
'Cause
failing.
you're aware of it.
Yeah, you're aware. It's exactly, it's awareness. Like same with me, it's the fear of failing. And I always talk about the fear of failing and like being able to fail because I'm honest to it. Like it could happen. Like, I mean, as a firefighter, I'll just bring an example. As a firefighter, I've just seen people go through a heart attack of all breeds and sizes and colors. So therefore, I know like anybody can go through the same, consequence or like path. You just in a paranoid way, just try to avoid it as best as you can, but who knows?
Yeah.
How much time we at here? An hour and a half already?
No, it's about to be 2 hours here.
About to be 2 hours. Okay, so I think
James, plug yourself. So where
I
can people find you? Like, do you have I guess like a media?
Do you have a
website
business
for
or are
your-
you just a student?
I'm just a student, y'all. Yeah.
But you do have your media page. So, like, what's that page on IG if you want to share that at all?
I'll keep that personal.
Okay. Yeah. Because you do
don't
make
want-
some pretty cool
You
art.
don't want all of our fans to DM you for like video work.
Our
you
9
know?
fans.
If
Yeah.
you got questions, DM No Egg Podcast
Yeah.
and DM2 and DM Peng, and that's how you reach out to me.
But I just want to say thanks, James, for the good
Yeah, so
conversation we had today. This was our longest podcast that we've shot out of like maybe the 4, 5, 6 that we've actually kept.
Yeah.
We're
keeping this one for sure.
But it was good. No, it was good, and I learned a
thank
lot
you
in the
for coming.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I think some good knowledge was passed around, bounced around.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate what you two are doing. I think that you keep doing what you're doing. There's going to be a lot of success in this. I think there are a lot of people who are looking for identities themselves. You two have been through it, and having that avenue to openly talk about things that actually needs to be talked about versus things that needs to just be brushed off. There's a lot of power in expressing some of the things that you're going through. So I encourage you two both to keep doing this, to be open, and to keep, sharing the message.
Yeah.
So thank you all for having me.
Awesome.
All right. We'll wrap up. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Holy